Have you ever found yourself sitting in a room full of people who call themselves your friends, yet deep down, you feel strangely alone? It's a strange kind of loneliness, isn't it? Laughter fills the air, casual conversations flow, smiles are exchanged, and yet, something inside of you whispers, I don't belong here. Maybe you've felt it too, that quiet sense that behind the surface, behind the politeness and the laughter, something colder is present. The Stoics warned us about this thousands of years ago. They taught that words may deceive, but actions never lie. Anyone can say the right things. Anyone can wear a smile like a mask. But the body, the posture, the patterns, they always reveal the truth. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." What he meant was simple. No matter how much people try to cover up their true intentions, it eventually bleeds through in how they behave. And this is the reality. Not everyone who stands beside you is truly walking with you. Some are there because it's convenient. Some are there because they envy what you have. And some, believe it or not, are there because they secretly hope you stumble while pretending to cheer you on. Think about that for a moment. How many of the people around you are genuinely for you, and how many are just present because it benefits them somehow? Now, here's the hard truth. Most people will never confront you directly. They won't come out and say, I don't like you, or I don't value you. No, that would be too obvious. Instead, their actions speak. The way they consistently dismiss your ideas, the subtle ways they leave you out, the compliments that feel more like hidden jabs. These aren't random accidents. They are patterns, and patterns are the closest thing to truth that we can see in others. So here's a question worth asking yourself. Have you ever felt tolerated instead of valued? Maybe you brush it off at first, telling yourself you're imagining it. But deep down, you know. And the longer you ignore those feelings, the more power you give away. The Stoics believe that freedom begins with clarity. Clarity to see things as they are, not as we wish them to be. When you start paying attention to the subtle signs, something changes. You begin to notice who lights up when you walk into a room and who dims. You begin to see whose smile reaches their eyes and whose lips just stretch because politeness demands it. You start to recognize who invites you into their world and who only keeps you on the sidelines. And when you see clearly, you're no longer a prisoner of false friendships or empty connections. I remember a time in my own life when I sat with a group of people I once called my closest friends. On the surface, everything looked fine. We laughed, we joked, we told stories, but deep inside, I felt invisible. I noticed how my words landed with silence, how conversations flowed easily when I wasn't involved, how my presence seemed optional. For months I told myself, it's just in your head. But it wasn't. The signs were there all along. I just wasn't willing to face them. And that's why this matters. Because once you learn to see the truth in people's actions, you stop begging for clarity. You stop waiting for them to admit how they really feel. You already know. Seneca said, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. But when it comes to how people treat us, the reverse is also true. We imagine they care, when their actions already tell us otherwise. So let me ask you, who in your life has shown you, not through their words, but through their patterns, that you are not truly valued? Who consistently leaves you feeling drained, excluded, or unseen? These are difficult questions, but necessary ones. Because when you face the truth, you give yourself permission to step into freedom. Here's the gift the Stoics left us. You don't need to confront everyone. You don't need dramatic exits, shouting matches, or endless debates. The Stoic way is quieter, stronger. You simply observe, understand, and adjust. You don't chase warmth where there's only cold. You don't force yourself into spaces where you're barely tolerated. Instead, you move toward the light, toward people who face you openly, sincerely, without hesitation. That's why this video matters, because over the next few moments, we're going to uncover the clear signs that reveal when someone secretly doesn't value you. And trust me, Once you learn to see them, you'll never look at people the same way again. So stay with me. What you discover next may not just change how you see others. It may also change how you see yourself. Because clarity is power. And the moment you see clearly, you stop needing validation from those who never intended to give it. You start walking with dignity, strength, and the kind of calm confidence that no false friend can take away. Let's begin with the first and perhaps the most honest sign. Body language never lies. Think about it. Words are cheap. Anyone can say, "I'm glad you're here," or "It's so nice to see you." But the body, the posture, the eyes, the little movements, those don't come with filters. The body always betrays the truth. And the truth is, when someone doesn't truly value you, their body withdraws, even if their words sound polite. Have you ever noticed this? You're talking with someone, and instead of leaning in, they subtly lean away. Their arms fold tightly across their chest. Their legs cross like a barrier. Their feet point not toward you, but toward the exit. It's as if their body is already halfway out the door, even while their mouth says, "Now compare that to how someone acts when they genuinely want you around." Their posture opens, their face softens, their eyes meet yours and hold, not in a forced way, but with real presence. They lean in, they nod, they create space that feels like an invitation. Even in silence, you feel welcomed. The Stoics knew this well. They taught that people can disguise their words, but the soul always shows itself through action. And body language is the action most people can't control for long. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily to pay attention not to what people say, but to what they do. Because action is truth. Let me give you a story from my own life. I once had a colleague who, no matter the conversation, would position himself behind his desk. His arms folded like steel bars, his eyes darting anywhere but mine. At first, I excused it. Maybe he's busy, maybe he's stressed. But after months, the pattern never changed. I realized it wasn't stress, it was distance. He didn't want connection, and his body made that clear long before his words ever would. And that's the power of observation. Once you start noticing the little signs, the phone they hold up, like a shield, the way they sit at the edge of their chair angled away from you, you begin to see the truth. These aren't meaningless gestures. They are exits, subtle exits from emotional presence. But here's something important. Don't confuse this with shyness or introversion. Even the quietest, most reserved person still opens up in their own way to those they trust. They may not be loud, but they are present. They make space for you. The difference is crystal clear when someone avoids eye contact with you, but easily connects with others in the same room. That's not shyness. That's selection. And you need to see that without bitterness, only awareness. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. But when it comes to relationships, the opposite can be true. We imagine people care when their actions clearly say otherwise." The Stoic path isn't about confronting them, demanding, "Tell me why you avoid me." That's not strength, that's desperation. The Stoic way is quieter. You observe, you understand, and you adjust. You stop forcing what isn't natural. You redirect your energy where it belongs. Here's the lesson. If their body is telling you no, stop forcing a yes. You deserve to be in rooms where you are welcomed without having to twist yourself into knots for approval. The wise person doesn't chase warmth in places that are cold. He simply moves toward the Sunday. So pause and think. Who in your life opens their posture when you're near, and who closes off? Who leans in, and who leans away? Who places invisible walls between you, arms crossed, eyes averted, objects in hand, and who sets those walls aside so you can enter? Your task isn't to resent the ones who close off. It's to recognize the truth and free yourself from needing what they won't give. Because the moment you stop chasing, you gain clarity. And clarity is freedom. In a world full of polite words and social masks, body language remains brutally honest. And once you learn to see it, you'll never unsee it. It's not about decoding people like puzzles, it's about listening with your eyes. And when you listen, you begin to realize you deserve the spaces where your presence is embraced, not endured. So remember this, the body doesn't lie. And if someone's body says you are unwelcome, that's not your cue to beg harder. That's your cue to walk away with dignity. Now, let's go deeper. If their body shows resistance, what about their words? Sometimes disdain doesn't come through silence, it hides behind compliments. So how do you spot the insult dressed up as praise? Let's explore that in the next part. Let's talk about another sign that reveals more than words ever could, the smile that doesn't reach the eyes. You know exactly what I'm talking about. On the surface, a smile looks like a universal gesture of warmth, of connection, of goodwill. But not every smile is genuine. Some are shields, some are traps, and some are nothing more than social obligations stretched thin across the face. So ask yourself, when someone smiles at you, do their eyes light up, or do they remain cold, distant, untouched by the moment? Because genuine joy, genuine connection is impossible to fake. It's spontaneous. It lights up the whole face. The eyes soften, the cheeks warm, and those little crinkles appear near the corners of the eyes. That kind of smile is alive. But then there's the other kind, the fake smile. The one where the lips stretch, but nothing else follows. The eyes stay flat, like the soul behind them has stepped out of the room. You've seen it before. Maybe you shared good news and received a polite grin, but something about it felt hollow, like they were rehearsing their next line instead of celebrating with you. Or maybe you offered a warm greeting, and the smile you got back flickered too quickly, disappearing the second you looked away. That wasn't warmth. That was toleration. I remember once sharing a personal success with someone I had known for years. I expected joy, support, maybe even pride. Instead, I got a smile that felt more like a performance than a response. His eyes didn't move. His face didn't soften. It was as if he was checking a box. Smile here, nod here, say congratulations. Later, another friend pulled me aside and said, "You know, I don't think he liked hearing about your success." And in that moment, everything clicked. That empty smile had carried more truth than any words he had spoken. The Stoics warned us about this very thing. They taught us not to judge too quickly, but also not to be blind. Not every clap is sincere. Not every cheer is genuine. Seneca and Marcus Aurelius both remind us that envy, discomfort, even contempt often hide beneath the surface of polite gestures. That would be a waste of your energy. The Stoic way is not paranoia, it is perception. So pay attention. Notice the difference between how someone smiles at you and how they smile at others. Do their eyes come alive with others, but remain flat when it's you? Do they laugh freely with one group, but go stiff when you enter the room? That difference matters, because sincerity can't be faked over time. Patterns always tell the truth, but here's where many of us fall into a trap. We chase those empty smiles. We try harder to win them over. We think, if I share more, if I do better, if I soften myself, maybe they'll finally be happy for me. We forget what the Stoics knew. Your worth is not measured by how warmly others respond to you. Your worth exists in your integrity, in your sincerity, in your character. So let me ask you, why would you bend yourself out of shape to earn authenticity from someone who has none to give? Why would you shrink your joy, your success, your presence, just to make someone else's empty smile feel real? The truth is, you don't need their approval. You don't need their validation. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Applied here, it means don't match their hollowness with hollowness of your own. Don't fake your warmth to mirror their coldness. Instead, remain genuine. Smile because that's who you are, not because you're desperate to be mirrored. Their falseness does not diminish your truth. The Stoic path is about clarity, not bitterness. Once you see that a person's smile holds no warmth, you stop chasing it. You stop hoping for sincerity in a place where it doesn't exist. And in that moment, you free yourself. Remember this: the most dangerous form of hostility is not the obvious insult. It's the hidden coldness dressed as kindness. But once you recognize it, it loses its power. Because now, you're no longer confused. You're no longer waiting. You're no longer investing your energy in someone who has already shown you their true face. So the next time you notice a smile that feels empty, don't take it personally. Don't let it pierce your joy. Let them wear their mask. Let them perform. But don't lose your authenticity trying to melt a face carved from ice. Because in the end, the Stoic doesn't waste his life chasing false signals. He stands firm in truth, rooted in dignity. And when you walk away from empty smiles, you make space for genuine ones, the kind that light up not just the lips, but the soul. We've looked at the truth hidden in body language. We've uncovered the hollowness of empty smiles. Now let's move to the next sign, one that speaks louder than silence itself. Short, hollow words. Think about it. When someone values your presence, conversation flows. They ask questions, they listen, they stay with you in the moment. But when someone doesn't truly care, their words shrink. They contract like a closing door. You ask how they're doing, and you get the same flat replies. I'm fine. Same old. It's all good. On the surface, these phrases sound normal, but deep down, you know they're shields, not bridges. Have you felt this before? You try to share something meaningful, only to be met with one-word answers or distracted nods. You're in the middle of a story, and they're already glancing at their phone. They're physically present, but emotionally gone. It feels like talking to a wall in a room where the door is always half open, ready for them to leave. Contrast that with someone who truly values you. Even if the conversation is brief, there's a spark of presence. They ask, "How are you really?" They lean in. They remember details from past conversations. They follow up. Their words don't just fill space, they carry care. I remember running into an old friend at a bookstore. We hadn't spoken in months. He smiled quickly and said, "Pretty good." Then he shifted the conversation away before I could even respond, his eyes already scanning toward the exit. He threw in the classic line, "We should catch up sometime." But the way he said it carried no intention, no warmth. And sure enough, that sometime never came. That moment told me everything I needed to know. The Stoics remind us not to seek our value in others' responses. Epictetus said, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit." In the same way, if someone shows you through their words that your presence doesn't matter, don't keep trying to force depth where only surface exists. Recognize it, accept it, and step back with dignity. Here's a question worth asking yourself. When was the last time you had a conversation with this person that felt alive? Do they light up when you speak, or do they check out? Do they engage with you, or do they offer replies that feel more like polite exits than invitations? Now, to be fair, everyone has bad days. Everyone has moments when they're tired, overwhelmed, or distracted. The Stoic approach isn't to judge too quickly. It's to look at patterns. If someone is always distant with you but lively with others, that's not coincidence, that's clarity. They're showing you where you stand. And here's the trap so many of us fall into. We take it personally. But the truth is, their shallow words are not a reflection of your worth. They are a reflection of their priorities, their emotional capacity, and their willingness to connect. Seneca once said, "He who is everywhere is nowhere." In the same way, if someone speaks to everyone but truly connects with no one, especially not with you, it's not your job to chase them. Your role is not to beg for full sentences when all they offer are fragments. So here's the lesson. Don't chase presence where someone shows you absence. When their words are hollow, believe them. When their replies are empty, let that emptiness be the answer. A wise person doesn't keep knocking on a door that only opens halfway. He simply walks toward doors that open fully. I want you to pause and reflect for a moment. Who in your life always gives you leftovers of their attention? Who speaks to you only in quick, tired phrases, but comes alive with others? And who, on the other hand, makes even the shortest conversations feel meaningful because they're truly present with you? That's where your energy belongs. Not in chasing after people who hand you empty shells, but in nurturing relationships where words are filled with sincerity. The Stoic path is not about coldness or suspicion. It's about clarity. It's about moving through the world with grace and self-respect. It's about recognizing when someone's speech is a signal that they no longer value the connection, and then choosing not to shrink yourself to fit into their silence. Because here's the truth. Meaningful connection cannot be forced. You can't pull words from someone's heart if they've already decided to lock it. But you can choose where you invest your own. And sometimes, silence is more dignified than begging for someone's full sentence. So remember this. When words grow short, don't try to stretch them into something they're not. Don't beg for life in a conversation that's already dead. Instead, let their brevity teach you where not to pour your energy and turn toward those whose words don't just pass the time, but build something real. Now, let's go deeper. Because when words grow short, another sign often follows the tone. Those subtle jokes, those cutting remarks that sting beneath the surface. How do you recognize when humor isn't humor, but hostility in disguise? That's what we'll uncover in the next part. Human beings are creatures of contact. Think about it. A handshake, a pat on the back, a hug, these are not just casual gestures. They are affirmations. They say, I see you. You belong here with me. Touch carries a kind of silent language, one that often speaks louder than words ever could. Now here's the truth. When someone values your presence, even the smallest forms of contact feel natural. They lean in, they offer a handshake, they clap you on the back, they greet you warmly. But when someone wants to keep you at arm's length, they show it through distance. And if you pay close attention, you'll see that avoidance is not an accident. It's communication. Ask yourself, have you ever been in a room where someone greets everyone else with high fives, hugs, playful touches, but when it comes to you, nothing? No handshake, no pat on the shoulder, not even a brush of the arm, just a stiff smile and a quick pivot away. It stings, doesn't it? But here's the key. That's not a coincidence. That's a choice. I remember once attending a group gathering. One man, let's call him Eric, moved through the room like a burst of energy. High fives here, shoulder taps there, hugs and laughter for nearly everyone. But when he reached me, the energy shifted. No handshake, no contact, just a tight smile, arms glued to his sides, before he quickly turned to the next person. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe he was distracted. But then it happened again and again. The pattern told me what his words never did. You're not part of my circle. The Stoics would tell us this. Don't rush to judgment, but don't ignore the truth either. Some people are naturally less expressive. Some prefer more personal space, and that's okay. But here's the difference. If they're warm and physical with others, yet consistently avoid it with you, that's not temperament, it's exclusion. Seneca once said, if someone is able to show me I am mistaken, I will gladly change. The same applies in reverse. If someone shows you, time after time, through action or inaction, that you're not truly welcome, your role isn't to convince them otherwise. It's to accept what they've revealed. And this is where the Stoic perspective becomes so freeing. You don't need to storm out of their life. You don't need dramatic confrontations. You don't need to beg for affection or wonder, what's wrong with me? No. You simply see it for what it is. You accept it, and then you quietly match the distance they've chosen. Not out of spite, but out of dignity. Because the truth is, you are not owed affection. Not everyone is going to welcome you into their personal space, but you are also not required to beg for it or tolerate the pain of being silently pushed aside. The wise person observes the pattern, acknowledges it, and then makes their own choice without anger, without resentment. Let me ask you, who in your life greets you with warmth, touch, openness, and who avoids it only with you? Who hugs others but stiffens around you? Who leans in with everyone else, yet leans away from you? These aren't meaningless differences, they are signs. And the Stoic path invites us to see them clearly. Remember, not all walls are built with words. Some are built with silence and absence. Some are built when someone avoids your hand, your touch, your presence. And if you're honest, you already know the truth in those moments. So here's the lesson. Don't chase the touch that never comes. Don't force closeness where someone has chosen distance. If their actions say, "I'm keeping you out," believe them. And instead of trying harder to get in, walk away with your head high. Because true connection doesn't need to be begged for. The Stoics remind us, peace comes not from being included everywhere, but from being at peace with exclusion. When someone keeps you on the outside, it's not a verdict on your worth. It's simply a reflection of their choice, and you have the freedom to make yours. So the next time you notice someone who consistently pulls back when you lean in, pause and reflect. Have you seen this pattern only with you or with everyone? The answer will tell you more than their words ever could. And once you see it clearly, don't let it weigh on you. Let it guide you. Because the moment you stop forcing yourself into spaces where you're not embraced, you open yourself to the people who will meet you with sincerity, warmth, and presence. Distance is a wordless message, but it's a message worth hearing. And when you do, respond not with desperation, but with wisdom. And save your energy for the connections where you are welcomed fully, without hesitation. One of the clearest signs that someone does not truly value you is found not in what they say, but in what they don't say. It shows up in silence when invitations are never extended, when doors never open, when you're left out of plans time and time again. Think about it. Real friendship is revealed through effort. It's not just about words or promises. It's about the actions people take to bring you into their world. So ask yourself honestly, when was the last time this person invited you somewhere, not as an afterthought, not because someone else canceled, but because they genuinely wanted you there? If you struggle to remember, or if the answer is never, then maybe it's time to face a harder truth. You might be the one doing all the inviting. You might be the one always checking in, always suggesting plans, always keeping the connection alive. And when you stop, silence. They disappear. I've been there before. I once considered someone a close friend. We shared personal conversations, supported each other through hard times, and I believed the connection was mutual. But then I noticed something strange. Every single gathering, every single meetup was initiated by me. When I paused, when I stopped reaching out, the silence grew. Weeks went by. No message, no invitation, no effort. And yet I saw them laughing with others, making plans, posting photos. It wasn't cruelty, it was clarity. They had space in their life for many things, but not for me. That's the sting of exclusion. It's not always loud. Sometimes it's just the quiet absence of an invitation. The polite excuses. We should hang out soon. Things are just crazy right now. But soon never comes, and crazy is never too crazy for the people they truly value. The Stoics remind us of this timeless lesson. People's priorities are not declared, they are demonstrated. Marcus Aurelius wrote that we should not expect fairness from others, but we can give it to ourselves. And that includes giving ourselves the fairness of clarity. If someone consistently excludes you, it doesn't mean you're unworthy. It simply means you've seen the truth of where you stand. Here's the danger we fall into: making excuses for their absence. Maybe they forgot. Maybe they're busy. Maybe next time. But deep down, you know that people rarely forget the presence they truly value. When inclusion becomes a pattern with others, and exclusion becomes a pattern with you, that's not an oversight. That's an answer. So let me ask you, who in your life do you always have to chase? Who only shows up when you put in the effort? And if you stopped reaching out tomorrow, who would notice your silence? These questions may be uncomfortable, but they're necessary, because awareness frees you from planting seeds in soil where nothing grows. The Stoic response is not bitterness, it's not revenge. It's saying, I will no longer invest energy in a place that bears no fruit, Seneca wrote. Associate with those who are likely to improve you. And improvement isn't only intellectual or moral, it's emotional. True friends nourish your spirit. They make space for you without being asked. They remember you without reminders. They invite you in, not out of obligation, but out of joy. So here's the lesson. Don't confuse convenience with connection. Someone being near you doesn't mean they're with you. Someone tolerating your presence doesn't mean they treasure it. And friendship without reciprocity is not friendship, it's accommodation. The moment you stop begging for invitations, the moment you stop forcing yourself into someone else's plans, you regain your dignity. You reclaim your time. And that time can be spent building connections with people who don't just accept you, but actively seek you. It's painful, yes, to realize you've given someone a front row seat in your life while they barely glanced in your direction. But clarity is a gift. Once you see the truth, you no longer waste yourself on people who keep you in the margins. Instead, you begin to surround yourself with those who see your worth without being reminded. So if you've noticed that someone never includes you, never invites you in, never makes the effort unless you don't chase. Don't make excuses. Don't water a desert and expect it to bloom. Step back. Let go. And remember, you deserve reciprocity. You deserve to be in spaces where your presence isn't just tolerated, but celebrated. Because at the end of the day, exclusion speaks loudly even in silence. And your job isn't to break down the door. It's to walk away and find the doors that are already open. Let's move to the next sign. It's one that often hurts the most because it reveals the imbalance in a relationship. They only reach out when they need something. Think about the rhythm of any meaningful connection. There's a natural give and take. Messages go both ways. Sometimes you check in, sometimes they do. It doesn't have to be perfectly balanced, but there's a sense of mutual care. You don't have to wonder if they're thinking about you, because every now and then, they show it. But what happens when that rhythm breaks? When you're always the one sending the first message, always the one asking how they're doing, always the one keeping the connection alive, and in return, silence. Unless, of course, they need something from you. Suddenly they reappear, full of energy, asking for a favor, a ride, your time, your effort. Have you experienced this? You send thoughtful texts, maybe updates, encouragements, small check-ins, and they rarely respond. Or if they do, it's brief, flat, almost like a chore. But the moment they want something, your phone lights up. And for a second you feel hopeful. Finally, they're reaching out. But deep down, you know it's not about you. It's about what they want from you. I've lived this pattern myself. There was someone I used to consider a close friend. I'd send messages just to say hello, to check in, to keep our bond alive. Sometimes I got a reply, often I didn't. But one thing never changed. They never initiated. Not once. Unless, of course, they needed something. Help moving, advice, a favor. And every time, a part of me wanted to believe it meant we were reconnecting. But the silence that followed always reminded me of the truth. I wasn't being valued. I was being used. The Stoics would tell us this: don't beg for recognition. Don't deceive yourself into believing a pattern doesn't exist just because you wish it didn't. Seneca said, true happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future. If you are constantly waiting, wondering when someone will finally think of you, finally reach out, finally care, without needing something in return, you're not at peace. You're tethered to a hope that doesn't match reality. So let me ask you, who in your life do you always have to chase? And if you stopped reaching out, would they notice your absence, or would they only come back the moment they wanted something again? That's not friendship. That's not care. That's maintenance, and the one doing the maintenance is you. Now, I want to be fair. Life gets busy. People go through hard seasons. Sometimes silence doesn't mean neglect. It just means someone is overwhelmed. But here's the key. Look at the pattern. If months go by and the only time someone remembers you is when you're useful to them, that's not busyness. That's a choice. And here's where the Stoic perspective brings peace. You don't need to rage. You don't need to confront them with accusations. You don't need to send dramatic messages asking, "Why don't you ever check on me?" No, the Stoic way is simpler, stronger. You observe, you accept, and then you adjust. You stop giving more than they've earned. You stop knocking on a door that only opens when it's convenient for them. Because here's the truth. Sincerity doesn't need reminders. A person who cares doesn't forget to ask, "How are you?" Care shows itself in the little things, a message, a call, a question that carries presence. And when that presence is missing, it's not your job to beg for it. The Stoics would call this dignity. To stop pouring energy into a relationship that only drains you. To step back, not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect. To realize that peace doesn't come from being surrounded by people. It comes from being surrounded by sincerity. So here's the lesson. If someone only reaches out when they need something, it's not a mutual bond, it's a transaction. And you don't exist to be someone else's transaction. Take a moment right now to reflect. Who in your life fits this pattern? And more importantly, what would happen if you stopped running toward them? If you stopped filling the silence, would they notice your absence, or would their silence simply continue? The answer might sting, but that sting is also liberation. Because once you see the truth, you no longer live in confusion. You no longer waste your energy begging for attention that will never come freely. Instead, you free yourself to invest in relationships where care is real, where effort is mutual, and where you're valued not for what you give, but for who you are. So let them go, not in anger, not with resentment, but with clarity. If they reach out only when they need something, that's not love, it's convenience. And you deserve more than convenience. You deserve sincerity. Let's talk about another powerful sign that reveals how someone truly feels about you. They keep breaking promises and always have an excuse ready. At the heart of every meaningful connection lies a bond you can't see, but you can always feel trust. And trust isn't built on grand speeches or dramatic declarations. It's built quietly, piece by piece, through reliability, through the small, steady actions that say, "You can count on me." But when someone repeatedly breaks their promises, that bond begins to crack. Not all at once, but slowly. Each missed commitment, each broken word, each empty sorry chips away at the foundation, until one day you realize there's nothing left but disappointment. Maybe you've experienced this. A friend swears they'll show up for something important. Your birthday, a milestone, an event that matters deeply to you. And yet, the day comes and they're nowhere to be found. Later, they offer excuses. Work ran late. Something came up. I forgot. And though the apology may sound sincere, the pattern remains. They keep saying the right things. I remember this happening with someone close to me. They promised to be there during a pivotal moment in my life. I believed them. I trusted their word. But when the day arrived, they never showed. And it wasn't the first time, it was the fifth. At first, I told myself, they're busy. Life happens. They mean well. But eventually, I had to face the truth. Meaning well is not the same as doing well. The Stoics teach us to observe patterns, not just isolated events. Epictetus reminded us that while we can't control what others do, we can always choose how to respond. And here's the truth. When someone breaks their word again and again, they're revealing something about their character. They're showing you how lightly they take their own promises. And if they treat their own word carelessly, how much respect do you think they have for yours? Seneca once wrote, "Nothing is more honorable than a grateful heart." I would add this: few things are more revealing than a consistent one. The person who can be trusted in small things can be trusted in great ones. But the person who treats promises as optional cannot be trusted with anything that truly matters. So ask yourself, who in your life has repeatedly shown you that their word is fragile? Who always seems to have an excuse when it comes to showing up for you? And more importantly, why are you still handing them opportunities to disappoint you again? Now, to be fair, nobody's perfect. Life throws challenges at us all. Sometimes we have to cancel. Sometimes we genuinely fall short. That's human. But the difference lies in effort. A person who values you will acknowledge their failure, communicate openly, and try to do better next time. Their effort proves that your trust matters to them. But when broken promises become the pattern, when excuses become the rule, and when apologies never lead to change, that's not imperfection. That's indifference. Here's the lesson the Stoics would want us to remember. Clarity is better than illusion. Don't cling to the hope that this time will be different when the evidence has already spoken. Don't hold on to words when actions have already told the truth. The wise response is not to argue, not to rage, not to demand an apology. It's to accept what is, to say, this person has shown me who they are. I don't need to keep giving them chances to hurt me. Because respect, like trust, is not something you beg for. It's either present or it isn't. And if it isn't, the most stoic thing you can do is step back, not in anger, but in dignity. Think of it this way. Every time you hand your trust to someone who consistently drops it, you're teaching them that your time, your needs, and your feelings don't matter. But the moment you step back, you send a different message, not to them, but to yourself. So here's the conclusion. When someone keeps breaking promises and always blames circumstances, don't let their excuses blind you to the pattern. Don't let their apologies keep you tied to disappointment. Respect yourself enough to stop giving them the power to let you down. The Stoic path isn't about bitterness. It's about clarity. It's about freeing yourself from the cycle of hoping, waiting, and being disappointed. And once you do, you create space for people whose word means something, for people whose actions align with their promises. Because in the end, trust isn't about grand gestures. It's about consistency. And the people who truly value you won't just promise to show up, they will. There are few things more quietly painful than speaking your truth and realizing the other person simply doesn't care to hear it. They might nod, they might smile, they might even say, "I understand," but their actions show otherwise. This is the eighth sign. They hear you, but they never really listen. Let me paint the picture. You open up about something that matters to you, an idea, a feeling, maybe even a boundary. They nod politely, they let you finish, and then they immediately change the subject. Or worse, days later, they go and do the very thing you clearly said was hurtful or disrespectful. It's like your words vanish the moment they left your lips. Have you experienced this? You share a concern, and they brush it off with a distracted, "Uh-huh." You express excitement about a plan, and they cut you off mid-sentence to talk about themselves. Or maybe you've noticed a pattern. When decisions are made that affect both of you, your opinion is never factored in. It's not that they didn't hear you, it's that they never intended to value what you said. Now compare that to people who genuinely listen. When you speak, they stop scrolling on their phone. They look at you. Listening, at its core, is respect. And when someone refuses to listen, what they're really saying is, your voice doesn't matter here. I remember a moment when this truth became painfully clear in my own life. I shared a concern with someone close to me calmly, directly, without anger. They nodded, even said, I get it. And yet days later, they did the exact same thing. That's when I realized their nod wasn't agreement. It was dismissal. They were pretending to listen just long enough to move past the conversation, and that hurt more than an argument ever could. The Stoics warned us about this kind of false harmony. Marcus Aurelius said, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. In the same way, waste no more time trying to convince someone to care. Care is not something you extract through effort, it's something revealed through action. Here's the danger. Many of us keep talking, keep explaining, keep repeating ourselves, hoping that one day they'll finally understand. But the Stoic path reminds us of this. Don't waste your energy demanding interest where there is none. Your job isn't to force someone to value your words. Your job is to notice who already does. So ask yourself, who in your life truly listens when you speak? Who puts down their distractions? Who asks questions? Who remembers details you've shared? And who only nods, cuts you off, or dismisses your thoughts? That distinction matters. And here's a liberating truth. Their refusal to listen is not a verdict on your worth. It's a reflection of their priorities, their character, their willingness or unwillingness to respect you. Don't mistake their lack of listening for a lack of clarity in your words. Sometimes the problem isn't how you're speaking, it's that they never intended to hear you in the first place. The Stoic way is not to beg, not to shout, not to repeat yourself endlessly. To say, my words deserve ears that care, not ears that pretend. To walk away from conversations where your voice is treated like background noise, and to invest in the spaces where your words are honored. Because here's the lesson. You don't speak to be validated, you speak to stay aligned with your truth. And if someone refuses to honor that truth, the most powerful response is not to raise your voice. It's to step back, to preserve your peace, and to redirect your energy toward those who value you. Think about it. How much of your life has been wasted trying to get through to someone who never planned to listen? How many times have you repeated yourself, hoping for change, only to meet the same indifference? Imagine what would happen if you took all that energy and invested it in the relationships where listening flows naturally. The Stoics would call this wisdom clarity without resentment. You don't need to punish the person who ignores you. You simply recognize the truth and adjust accordingly. You stop forcing your words into closed ears, and you start speaking where your voice can actually make a difference. So here's the conclusion. When someone hears you but never truly listens, don't take it as a challenge to talk louder. Take it as a sign to walk wiser. Don't shrink yourself trying to earn space in their attention. Instead, expand into the spaces where your voice is not just tolerated but respected. Because in the end, your voice matters. Your words carry weight. And the people who truly care will prove it not by nodding, not by pretending, but by listening, remembering, and responding with sincerity. Now, let's talk about one of the clearest, yet often most overlooked, signs of disrespect. The sarcastic joke. The kind that looks like humor on the surface, but cuts deep beneath the laughter. We've all heard it. The kind of joking but not joking comment that makes the room chuckle but leaves you feeling small. It might sound like, you're always so sensitive, lighten up. Or, don't take it seriously, I was just joking. Or even, that's such a you thing to do, nobody else would mess it up like that. On the surface, it's framed as playful, but deep down, you know it wasn't about laughter. It was about lowering your value in front of others. Imagine this. You share an idea at work. You've thought about it carefully. You're proud of it. And then someone responds with a smirk. Great idea. If we were running a kindergarten, the room laughs. You force a smile, but inside, you feel cold. That wasn't humor, that was a blade wrapped in sugar. This kind of behavior is dangerous because it hides behind the mask of comedy. If you confront it, the person can always say, relax, I was only kidding. If you stay silent, the disrespect grows, and slowly you start questioning yourself. Am I too sensitive? Am I overreacting? But here's the truth. You're not overreacting. You're noticing what's real. The Stoics remind us that patterns matter more than isolated events. One sarcastic comment here and there might be nothing. But when someone consistently uses you as the punchline, when every joke seems to land at your expense, that's not humor, it's hostility wearing a smile. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." But when it comes to sarcastic jokes, the reverse often happens. We pretend it's all imagination. They didn't mean it. It's just a joke. Because it's easier than admitting the truth. The joke is real, and so is the disrespect. I remember a time when this hit me personally. A so-called friend would always make me the target of his humor. At first, I brushed it off. I laughed along. But over time, I noticed a pattern. He never joked like that with others, only with me. And when I finally paused to see it clearly, I realized he wasn't laughing with me. He was laughing at me. And worse, he wanted everyone else to laugh too. That's not friendship. So what do we do? The instinct for many is to strike back with sharper words, to cut them down the way they cut you down. But that's not the Stoic way. Retaliation keeps you trapped in the same game. Another common instinct is to laugh along, to fake a smile so you don't look too serious. But that's not the Stoic way either, because every forced laugh chips away at your own dignity. The Stoic response is something much quieter and much stronger. Awareness, dignity, and distance. You don't need to fire back with sarcasm of your own. You don't need to beg them to stop. You simply stop giving their words power. You let your silence speak louder than their noise. You let your calm detachment say, "I don't need to play this game." Here's the lesson. A person who truly values you will never need to cut you down to make others laugh. Their humor will never come at the cost of your dignity. And if you find that your presence has become their entertainment, it's time to step away. Not in anger, not in shame, but in self-respect. Because at the end of the day, respect is more valuable than belonging. If belonging means being the constant punchline, then it's not belonging, it's betrayal disguised as friendship. So the next time someone says, "I was just joking," ask yourself, was it really a joke? Or was it a message dressed up in laughter? And if the pattern repeats, the Stoic answer is simple. Remember this. You don't need their laugh to validate you. You don't need their approval to know your worth. Silence, dignity, and distance are sometimes the strongest answers of all. Because the truth is, you're not here to be someone else's joke. You're here to live with quiet strength. And once you stop tolerating the hidden cuts disguised as humor, you'll find yourself surrounded by people who don't just laugh near you, they laugh with you, in sincerity, in warmth, without tearing you down. So here we are. We've walked through the subtle but powerful signs: withdrawn body language, empty smiles, shallow words, avoidance, exclusion, one-sided effort, broken promises, dismissive ears, and the cutting jokes dressed as humor. And while each of these signals may seem small on its own, when you put them together, they form a clear picture. It's a picture that tells you the truth. Not everyone who stands beside you is truly with you. Some tolerate you out of convenience. Some smile while hiding disdain. Some keep you close only when it benefits them. And some chip away at your dignity with words disguised as laughter. The Stoics taught us to see the world not as we wish it to be, but as it really is. And when it comes to relationships, this clarity is both a challenge and a gift. Because the signs are always there if you're willing to observe. The slouched body that leans away, the eyes that never warm when they smile, the conversations that feel like obligations, the plans you're never invited to, the promises that dissolve into excuses, the jokes that sting instead of uplift. We're often told to give people the benefit of the doubt, to brush off the small things. Patterns matter, And when someone consistently shows you who they are, it's no longer kindness to ignore it. It's self-deception. Now, what do we do with this knowledge? The Stoic answer is not rage. It's not confrontation, nor bitterness, nor revenge. It is clarity. It is acceptance. And it is the quiet decision to step away with dignity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone can show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth." The same principle applies here. If someone consistently shows you through their body, their words, their actions that you are not valued, then the truth is right in front of you. You don't need to argue it. You don't need to beg them to treat you better. You only need to accept what's already been revealed. And here's the powerful part. The moment you stop forcing yourself into spaces where you are merely tolerated, you free yourself. You free yourself to walk toward relationships where you are genuinely welcomed. You make room in your life for sincerity, for warmth, for the people who lean in when you speak, whose eyes brighten when you enter the room, who keep their word because your trust matters to them. Too many of us settle for being endured when we were made to be embraced. We stay where we are, dismissed, hoping that one day things will change. But the Stoics remind us, peace does not come from controlling others. It comes from controlling ourselves. And one of the greatest acts of self-control is choosing to leave where you are not respected. So let me ask you, are there spaces in your life where you feel like you have to shrink yourself just to fit in? Are there relationships where you're always guessing, always doubting, always questioning whether you matter? If so, then it's time to pause, to breathe, to recognize that you were not put here to be someone else's afterthought. You don't exist to be put up with. You exist to grow, to rise, to bring your light into places that welcome it. And when you let go of the rooms that dim you, you step into the ones that help you shine. This is the essence of Stoic strength: to walk away without hatred, to release without bitterness, and to protect your peace without apology. It is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the courage to say, I will no longer seek validation from those who withhold it. I will no longer confuse tolerance with acceptance. I will no longer settle for survival when I was made for growth. Remember this: silence is not surrender, it's strength. Walking away is not defeat, it's dignity. And when you create that space, something beautiful happens. The right people, the ones who truly value you, will have room to walk in. So as we close, let this be your reminder. You are not here to be tolerated. You are here to rise with quiet power. You are here to stand tall, to honor your worth, and to choose peace over pretense. And once you make that choice, the world begins to change, not because others finally see your value, but because you finally honor it yourself.